What sets SpaceX apart from the rest of the space industry? The power of reusability. Every product they create, whether in part or whole, is designed to be reused, and SpaceX wields a sharp weapon that no other American company currently has, a space taxi that's fully operational, Dragon. SpaceX has been sending humans to the ISS on Dragon so smoothly for 4 years. Now it's time to answer the question. What are the limits of Dragon's reusability? Just how powerful is it, and how does it outclass its competition? Let's find out in today's episode. Current limitation. Remember Dragon Endeavour. The spacecraft is currently docked alongside Starliner on the International Space Station, ISS, for the Crew 8 mission, its 5th flight. This makes Dragon Endeavour the most flown spacecraft in SpaceX's fleet, a testament to the reliability and reusability of Dragon. Do you know how many flights a Dragon is officially certified for? 5. So, on paper, Endeavour has reached its limit, and retirement should be its next step. But no, SpaceX believes this spacecraft has plenty of life left in it and is determined to prove it. During the February 28, 2024, press briefing on the Crew 8 mission, Steve Stick, NASA's Commercial Crew Program Manager, revealed some exciting details. SpaceX is conducting an in-depth examination of every component of the Dragon to determine the maximum number of safe flights the spacecraft can achieve. Stick shared, "We are right now embarking on what we call our extended Dragon certification. We're working on that this year and probably next year to see how long they will fly Dragon." The point is, what's the final target NASA and SpaceX have in mind? It's 15. 5 is impressive, but 15 would be revolutionary. What are NASA and SpaceX doing? So, how are they planning to extend Dragon's certification for more flights? NASA and SpaceX are undertaking a comprehensive and complex evaluation process. This includes rigorous qualification tests designed to assess the durability of each individual component of the spacecraft. It's crucial to remember that no part can last forever. Like any complex machine, spacecraft components wear down over time, especially in the harsh environment of space. After every mission, SpaceX conducts a thorough inspection and upgrades specific parts. This process is ongoing throughout the spacecraft's life cycle. Take the Pica X heat shield, for example. It's replaced after each mission. That's quite a major overhaul. Valves are another component that requires special attention. You see, Dragon lands in seawater, and saltwater is particularly harsh on metal valves. Essentially, a spacecraft is like a tank with rocket engines and tons of intricate valves. Valve leaks and corrosion are frequent issues for any spacecraft, demanding constant vigilance. Here's the point. The propellant used by the Draco engines, hydrazine and NTO, nitrogen tetroxide, don't mix well with moisture. Specifically, when NTO comes into contact with water or humidity, it produces red fuming nitric acid. This is a highly corrosive acid capable of causing severe damage to the spacecraft's metal components. For this reason, SpaceX must perform extremely meticulous checks on the propulsion system after every mission. This process may involve cleaning the entire system, inspecting every tiny detail, and replacing specific parts as needed. In fact, Boeing, SpaceX's main competitor in this field, has also faced similar issues with valve corrosion due to moisture in their Starliner spacecraft. This setback forced Boeing to delay the Orbital Flight Test 2 mission. Reusable spacecraft, in some ways, are like cars. Just as you frequently replace tires and brake pads on your car while the frame remains intact, spacecraft also have components that require regular replacement and core structures designed for long-term durability. John Posey, Dragon's chief engineer for NASA's Commercial Crew Program, emphasized that while many smaller components on the Crew Dragon are regularly swapped out, the spacecraft's primary structures remain unchanged. Specifically, parts like the capsule, welds, bulkheads, and pressure vessel, the essential skeleton of the spacecraft, remain original after multiple flights. Some individual components have been approved for up to 50 flights. This is an incredibly promising sign for SpaceX, showcasing the enormous potential for extending Dragon's operational lifespan. This number could exceed the 15-flight target that SpaceX is currently aiming for, suggesting that with ongoing development and refinement, Dragon could achieve even greater longevity in the future. But it's not just about conducting qualification tests on grounded spacecraft. Steve Stick, NASA's Commercial Crew Program Manager, revealed an ambitious plan involving SpaceX's Dragon Endeavour. Once Endeavour completes the Crew 8 mission and returns to Earth, expected within the next 2 weeks, NASA and SpaceX will conduct a comprehensive inspection. Engineers and scientists will meticulously analyze every component of the spacecraft, with particular focus on parts that have endured years of exposure to the harsh conditions of space. The goal is to assess the capabilities of Endeavour, deemed the fleet leader of SpaceX, in undertaking even more missions in the future. You know, Endeavour is the most seasoned spacecraft in SpaceX's fleet, having spent the most time in space. If it can prove its ability to fly beyond its expected limits, it could pave the way for the entire Dragon fleet, 3 active ships and 1 in the pipeline, to achieve a similar operational lifespan. This would be a monumental step in optimizing the cost and efficiency of space missions. Now, this evaluation process isn't a quick or simple task. It's expected to stretch throughout this year and possibly into the next, all in a bid to precisely determine how many safe flights each Dragon can realistically accomplish. In this era, the concept of reusable spacecraft has become almost second nature to everyone. It's the strategic goal that all leading space organizations are chasing, of course. They all want to dramatically cut costs and ramp up the frequency of space missions, unlocking new opportunities for exploration and the commercialization of space. So, we're witnessing an exciting race among reusable spacecraft: Boeing's Starliner, NASA's Orion, Sierra Space's Dream Chaser, and of course, SpaceX's Dragon. Each of these spacecraft has its unique characteristics and goals. Starliner, designed to be reused up to 10 times, aims to rival Dragon in ferrying astronauts to the ISS. The Dream Chaser, a mini space shuttle by Sierra Space, is targeting up to 15 reuses. And then there's Orion from NASA. Although designed for reuse, NASA engineers haven't yet pinned down the exact number of safe reuses for Orion, likely because they don't have enough data to determine this capability. These numbers sound impressive and full of promise. However, there's one common thread among these spacecraft: reliability. Dragon has been successfully ferrying humans to the ISS since 2020, smoothly and consistently. Meanwhile, none of the others have yet earned human-rated certification. We all know that Boeing's Starliner has struggled to complete a full mission cycle, from launch, docking with the ISS, to returning to Earth without a hitch. Technical issues have repeatedly delayed its development. Orion, despite completing the Artemis 1 mission around the Moon, isn't yet ready for the crewed Artemis 2 mission. NASA engineers are still addressing numerous issues, particularly with the heat shield, a critical component for ensuring crew safety during re-entry into Earth's atmosphere. As for Dream Chaser, though its design is unique and promising, it's progressing at a slower pace. Sierra Space is currently focused on the cargo version of Dream Chaser, and it might be a few more years before the crewed version sees the light of day. And here's a critical factor that often flies under the radar: the cost of disposable parts with each flight. This aspect is pivotal, directly impacting the overall expense of each mission, and ultimately, the ticket price for every astronaut. Let's take a closer look at this. Both Boeing's Starliner and NASA's Orion share a notable feature. They use a separate service module which houses thrusters and a variety of other high-tech components. This service module plays a crucial role in orbital adjustments, providing power and maintaining a livable environment for the crew throughout the mission. However, once the mission is complete, the entire module is jettisoned, either left behind in space or incinerated upon re-entry into Earth's atmosphere. The issue here is that these components, especially the thrusters and control systems, are incredibly expensive. They're built with high precision using advanced materials and cutting-edge technology. Discarding such valuable parts after each flight significantly drives up the cost of every mission. Similarly, Dream Chaser features the Shooting Star, a detachable cargo module. While this design allows Dream Chaser to carry more cargo, it also means that a significant portion of the spacecraft won't be reused after each mission. In contrast, SpaceX's Dragon takes a more streamlined approach that's highly cost-effective. The expendable part of Dragon is the trunk, a relatively simple structure housing the solar panels and thermal radiators. This simplicity not only reduces the overall cost of each mission, but also highlights SpaceX's strategic focus on efficiency without sacrificing performance. It seems both NASA and SpaceX are keen on extending the operational lifespan of the Dragon spacecraft. SpaceX is currently under contract with NASA to conduct flights to the International Space Station, ISS, until 2030, the projected retirement date for the ISS. However, this timeline could shift. Theoretically, SpaceX might complete up to 5 more flights for NASA under the current agreement. But here's the interesting part. If the ISS's lifespan is extended, a very real possibility, NASA could require even more Dragon flights. NASA's vision goes beyond the ISS. The agency is eyeing a handover of research and technology projects in low Earth orbit, LEO, to the private sector. Currently, NASA has received dozens of proposals from private companies to build commercial space stations. Among the prominent names are Axiom Space and Blue Origin, both heavyweights in the commercial space industry. It's expected that at least 2 new space stations will be constructed to maintain a continuous U.S. presence in LEO after the ISS retires. With more destinations in orbit, the demand for a reliable transportation vehicle like Dragon will skyrocket. Other spacecraft are still a while away from being ready to fly, so NASA doesn't have many alternatives. This situation is leading to a surge in demand for SpaceX. With 5 NASA missions already on the books and several private flights on the horizon, Dragon is currently flying 3 to 5 missions a year. Soon, there may be 1 to 2 Axiom missions and, in the future, 2 launches for Jared Isaacman's missions. The demand is high, which means the pressure is on to prove Dragon's extended reusability. SpaceX is already building the 5th spacecraft, which is tentatively planned to fly the Crew 10 mission in 2025 and will be ready by next fall. Boeing's Starliner project has turned into a heavy failure, dealing a severe blow to the company's reputation in the aerospace industry. Never before has Boeing faced such an intense wave of public criticism. The series of mishaps and delays have severely shaken confidence in Boeing's capabilities. No matter what, Starliner must leave the ISS by mid-September. The reason? The spacecraft can only remain docked at the station for around 90 days due to the limitations of the crew module's batteries. Plus, it needs to vacate the docking port for incoming missions, especially the upcoming Crew 9 mission. Starliner's extended stay on the ISS has already caused a traffic jam in space, seriously affecting the schedules of other missions. As for the crew's return, NASA is now facing a tough decision. Will Butch and Suni return on the same spacecraft that brought them to the ISS, or will they come back on a Dragon? According to the latest announcement, the agency will make a decision as early as this Saturday. So, facing the current reality, where does the future of the Starliner program stand? Let me tell you this. At this point, NASA has no reason to abandon Starliner. The main reason is that Boeing is under a fixed-price contract with NASA. This means NASA only pays a pre-agreed amount, and Boeing is obligated to meet the contract's requirement, no matter how much the actual costs exceed expectation. Additionally, NASA's strategy involves maintaining 2 independent transportation systems to ensure redundancy and flexibility for space missions. Having 2 providers, Boeing and SpaceX, helps NASA avoid relying on just one company, while also fostering healthy competition in the commercial space industry. Here's the point. In a recent announcement, NASA revealed that Administrator Bill Nelson and senior leadership will hold an internal agency test flight readiness review on Saturday, August 24, for NASA's Boeing Crew flight test. They'll be certifying the rationale for conducting undocking and return from the space station, phrasing that carries intriguing undertones, different from NASA's typically neutral language in the past. This strongly implies that NASA has never ruled out the possibility of returning the astronauts aboard Starliner, and they're actively working on this option. Clearly, NASA is still eager for Starliner to succeed. However, this is an extraordinarily risky gamble. If NASA decides to endorse this option and allows astronauts Wilmore and Williams to return on Starliner, the agency will be accepting an immeasurable level of risk. A severe failure during re-entry, especially if the astronauts' lives are endangered, would create immense pressure on NASA leadership to terminate the contract and remove Boeing from the program altogether. In this worst-case scenario, Boeing's reputation in the aerospace industry could be completely shattered. But what about the best-case scenario? If Starliner successfully brings the 2 astronauts back safely, Boeing's reputation might be salvaged just a little. But listen, even if the crew capsule returns intact, the thrusters will be destroyed along with the service module, the non-reusable part of the spacecraft. This means that regardless of the outcome, Boeing won't have the chance to inspect the thrusters after they've operated in space. Essentially, the company might never fully understand the root causes of the issues or the true performance of these thrusters. This presents a significant obstacle to improving and ensuring the safety of future missions. Now let's take a step back and consider the broader picture of the Starliner project. Boeing has built 3 Starliner prototypes, but only 2 remain operational. One completed the uncrewed OFT-2 mission, and the other is currently docked at the International Space Station, ISS. It's crucial to note that these 2 spacecraft are essentially identical. Of course, they haven't yet been certified for crewed missions. When a spacecraft repeatedly faces the same issues and the company can't pinpoint the root cause, we're no longer talking about glitches. This is a fundamental design flaw. For Boeing to continue fulfilling its contract with NASA, they might need to build an entirely new spacecraft with significant upgrades over the current design. Moreover, Boeing's original plan was to have 2 spacecraft rotating for mission, which means they could be looking at building 2 entirely new vehicles. This isn't just a technical challenge, it's a massive financial burden for the company. At Boeing's current pace of development and testing, it feels like this could take an eternity. The Starliner program has already turned into a financial black hole for Boeing. Despite not having completed a single crewed mission, the company has already lost nearly $2 billion on this project. On top of that, Boeing is under immense pressure to meet deadlines. If they continue with the program, they need to complete 6 crewed flights to the International Space Station, as per their agreement with NASA. At this rate, the ISS might have to extend its operational lifespan just to give Boeing enough time to fulfill its launch commitments. It seems like NASA has less incentive to cancel the Starliner program than Boeing does. Boeing might never see a return on investment from Starliner. In fact, the financial strain of this project has driven Boeing to swear off fixed-price contracts in the future. Given the current situation, Boeing might seriously be considering pulling the plug on this program. They could opt to pay penalties and cancel the contract to cut their losses. It's a tough call, but it might be necessary to stop the financial bleeding. The possibility of Boeing pulling out of the Starliner program isn't entirely far-fetched. Back in January 2020, Boeing made the surprising decision to withdraw from the experimental spaceplane XSP program run by the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA. This decision sent shockwaves through the aerospace community. The XSP program aimed to revolutionize space access by developing a reusable vehicle capable of launching satellites frequently and cost-effectively. Boeing was expected to lead this groundbreaking effort with its hypersonic vehicle concept, the Phantom Express. But, true to its name, the Phantom Express never materialized into a physical reality. The official reason for Boeing's withdrawal was an inability to agree on technical requirements and cost overruns with DARPA. At the time, the company announced it would refocus its efforts on air, sea, and space-related fields. This decision led to the cancellation of DARPA's XS-1 program altogether, marking a significant blow to the agency. The XS-1 was anticipated to be a game-changer, enhancing national space access and drastically reducing satellite launch costs. What's most striking and controversial about this situation is that Boeing retained all milestone payments they received from DARPA. Given that the contract was not fixed price, DARPA didn't pursue any refund. This has raised significant questions about financial accountability and fairness in defense contracts, especially when considering the project's disappointing outcome. In fact, there's another striking example in the space industry. Remember Collins? In 2022, NASA awarded Collins Aerospace a fixed-price contract as part of a $3.5 billion deal to develop new extravehicular activity, EVA, suits for space missions. However, due to delays and cost overruns, Collins Aerospace decided to withdraw from the contract. This unexpected decision sent shockwaves through NASA, leaving the agency in a difficult position. Yet, there's a crucial difference between these two scenarios. In the case of the EVA suits, when Collins Aerospace backed out, the remaining contractor, Axiom Space, had also not completed the development of the spacesuits as per their NASA contract. This left NASA scrambling for an immediate solution. On the flip side, in the realm of crew transportation, NASA has a reliable alternative, SpaceX's Dragon. Over the past 4 years, SpaceX has proven its reliability and efficiency in transporting astronauts to the International Space Station, ISS. This means that if Boeing decides to pull out, NASA won't be left without a viable crew transport solution. Moreover, the prospect of SpaceX having a monopoly in this field might not be as dire as some fear. There's a promising contender in development, Sierra Space's Dream Chaser. While Dream Chaser is currently designed for cargo missions, Sierra Space is also working on a crewed variant, expected to debut around early 2026. If the Starliner program continues, it's likely that Starliner's next crewed flight will happen around the same time. Sierra Space, though a rising star in the industry, could face significant challenges in building trust and credibility, especially when compared to established names like Boeing. But let's not forget that when NASA's Commercial Crew Program launched, Boeing capitalized on its long-standing reputation and close ties with the space agency. Boeing's deep involvement in major projects like Apollo and the Space Shuttle program created a clear bias. Consequently, Boeing secured a $4.2 billion contract, far surpassing the $2.6 billion funding awarded to its competitor, SpaceX. And history has shown that new players can rise strongly and set the standard for space transportation. SpaceX has become the sole American-made vehicle for sending astronauts to the ISS. So, what do you think? Does Sierra Space deserve a chance? And how should NASA decide the future of the Starliner program? Comment below. All right, that's it for today. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth looks at the latest advancements in space technology. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.